Welcome back to the Ponca City Monthly Podcast. I'm your host, Andy. You know, February is Library Appreciation Month, and so lots of things going on at our library here. We have a really fantastic library here in Ponca City. If you've never been, that's crazy. You should go. If you're visiting and wanting to check out Ponca City, you definitely should, because in addition to books, there's also a ton of art. And there's so many programs going on. I thought it'd be fun to bring in Holly from the library to tell us all about it. Holly, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So this month in the magazine, we have an article about the library. I am saying that in my head. I keep thinking I'm saying library. Like, library.
No, you're doing great.
Okay, great, good. I'll cut that out. Yeah, so the library, there's lots going on. It's Library Appreciation Month. Tell me how you're celebrating over there.
Oh my gosh. I have just such a great staff, and I've challenged them with really trying to showcase programs that meet what people are needing in their lives, whether it's creative stuff or educational stuff or social activities where people can get together and learn new things and make new friends. So we just kicked off in February. We kicked off our annual tax preparation. Oh. So it's a free tax service where we have some volunteers who come in through the VITA Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. And think last year they helped 635 families get their tax returns filled out free. So, tax season is scary. And so it's really awesome that we have people who come in and take care of that for us. Let me grab my list because I always try to be prepared because I always forget something.
Yeah, I was thinking as I was going on about February is Library Appreciation Month. I was like, I guess every month for you guys is Library Appreciation.
Well, yeah, I mean, we are definitely some grown-up library kids, We're those people who hung out, since we were this tall, wanting to be in libraries. So it's awesome. It's great to work there, especially the art, like you mentioned. I try to explain to people, it's kind of like, if you love art, it's like working in a museum a little bit.
I wondered about that. Do you sort of have to play curator, or is there somebody over that? Or do you, because the art doesn't really change, right?
The art doesn't change. It was given to us in 1950 from a will from Mr. Metzine, who had lived here, 40s, in the 1940s, because he met some rich oil barons and he came over here when he retired. But so we've had it since 1950. It's on permanent display. So we have it assessed periodically by art conservators, but otherwise we're responsible for the tours and making sure that everything is in good repair. And, that's part of my job.
Sure. Yeah. A lot of different things. A lot of different kinds of art. You have some that are sculpture and then actual stuff on the walls.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting collection because Mr. Metzine was a collector. Mm-hmm. And so everything that he had was either he would travel and he would meet artists, or he'd see something that appealed to him, for aesthetic reasons. He didn't collect necessarily investment. So it's sort of a different feel to the collection. So he traveled overseas a lot. And so when he would be in Asia, he'd pick up things, from China. And right. There's one Japanese piece, and there's, and then he also had a lot of friends who were in the American Southwest. So we had a lot of friends that were in the Taos School of Art. I mean, that's still, it's one of the most booming art industries in the United States, is that part of America. So we do, so that we have very traditional Asian art, and then we have the other half of the building is modern, I guess, mm-hmm. almost impressionistic, a lot of the Sanzine paintings, right. A lot of kind of a modern take on the Western landscape. So yeah, it's an interesting combination. And then, like you said, we have different mediums. So we have we have statues, we have pottery, and then we have watercolors, and then we have oils. So, and it's all things that you would see in a museum.
Yeah.
And so it's awesome because you get kids coming in, and it's you're really introducing them their first time to real art. And so you can talk about the medium, and you can talk about the relationship between, one culture's perspective on how do you show traditional ideas, and then you could show very modern art, and you can talk about perspective. It's really fun.
That does make it fun. I love the art so you were talking about the kids when they come in. The art in the kids section is my favorite.
Oh, you like the Western Impressionism.
I don't know that I love the subject matter, but the style is so cool. The style is really interesting to me. And what I like for it being in the kids section is some of those paintings, if you walk up, you can actually see the texture, the paint strokes and things like that. And I think for kids, that's the fun, cool part.
Well, and it's really cool because the big painting that's in the it's kind of on the wall, right? That separates children's from the adult section.
My favorite
painting. Yeah,
painting.
it's like one of the largest of his paintings. And what it's really fun is like if you stand really close to it and then you kind of walk back, you can see how Impressionism is kind of weird for me. Like I can't think of like, how did they not, and so, but you can really see how the image that he was painting shifts as you change your relationship to the painting. And like you said, like that texture of the brush strokes and, some of that, cause it's got some crackling in it. And, you can talk about a lot of painters mix their own paints. And so some of that crackling in there is kind of related to how much oil that he mixed in with the paint because he wanted a certain finish. And so as that ages, because art changes over time, so you can see like it started here, maybe the colors look like this or it was smoother. Over time it shifts and the colors shift and the texture shifts too. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm not an artist, so some artist is going to call in and be like, you're making this up.
Yeah.
But
how did you get involved in all, like how did you get into, were you always a library person? Like, were you that kid?
I was that kid. Yeah. We lived I grew up in the Twin Cities and we probably lived like less than a mile from a local branch. And so I was like, I knew all the librarians. I ended up working in a library when I was 16 and just kind of at the public library. And then I worked at the university library when I was in graduate school. So just, So
are you like, and I think maybe this is something that, when we talk about how libraries have changed over the years, but I don't think they have because I think they were always this multimedia hub. You think, library, books. But there's so much more than that. But were you like a book person? Is that how this attracted you? Or were you there for other things? Because there's so much, there's videos, there's music.
Well, I think part of it is libraries are really about creating like shared culture and a safe place for, reading about different ideas. I think, it's kind of, it's kind of a hackneyed phrase, but we talk about being like a marketplace for ideas. And so just even as a kid going into a place where they had all these great programs where, you can learn how to screen print, or you can, meet an author, or you can learn how to, throw a pot on a pottery wheel, or you can just kind of travel to a different country, or you can look at, comic books from the 1930s. Just this idea that if you're interested in it, there's an avenue where you can discover something was always really exciting for me. And like you said, I think libraries have always been on that edge of technology applications for sure. They think we're just about the books, and I love books, but we do, we try to embrace all the new stuff that comes out.
Yeah, because as I was preparing for this interview, I was thinking like, I wonder how libraries have changed over 30 years. And I was like, I remember my library had computers that you could go up to and rent or use. And there's always been like fun art things going on. So I think the spirit of libraries hasn't probably changed much, but I'm sure the applications have.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we were just laughing about this the other day. So, think about the old card catalogs, right? So what you don't realize is like pre-computers, like those were the finding points for any book on the shelf, right? And so you had to have a person who would sit there and they would type all day and they'd say, okay, we have to have a card for every subject. You have to have a card for the title and a card for the author. And so there was just so much time spent on, perfect typing, and I won't bore you with cataloging. I'm not a great cataloger, but but it was a very time-consuming process. But the idea was that we wanted to make as many points for a customer to come in and be like, I want to find a book about this, and then we have to think, well, how would our customers, think about it?
Sure.
So the greatest thing about technology, though, is it has freed up so much of our time to actually spend time with customers. Sure. So we can do more programming, we can do more planning, we can do more surveying, we can do more art tours. We can be in the makerspace more with people instead of, hiding our talent behind closed doors. We can actually, be helping people and engaging with them and answering questions for them.
I don't know when it came about, but I am the lazy type that just goes online and orders the books so that I just go to the front desk and pick it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. And again, technology changes. There's also where you can check out digital books, right?
Yeah, we're part of the Oklahoma Virtual Library Consortium. So you can just go online and you can check out 6 at a time and, explore new authors. That's what I really like about digital. I'm a library kid, all grown up, so I do love paper books for sure, but I have a Kindle. And so, if you see me at the gym on the bike, I'm reading my Kindle.
Okay.
So I love the virtual library for that. It's just, you can try things that maybe, this might be a good book for me, it might not. And it's just easy and it's fast and,
As a librarian, somebody who is just immersed in books all day, for you, was the invention of the Kindle and all of that kind of weird for you? Because I have to tell you, I love books.
Right.
And I had a huge library.
Okay.
But when you're in your 20s, you move like every 3 months.
Oh my gosh.
And after you move a library like twice, you're like, yeah, I think I'll just go with digital.
Well, so I'm weird. So I'm doing that. They talk about that Swedish death cleaning or whatever.
Sure.
So I'm going through that at my house right now.
Amen.
And
it's that time of year.
Yeah. And I'm a little bit of a hoarder and a book hoarder for sure.
Okay.
And my husband is like a crazy book hoarder. Don't anybody tell him I said that. But so I've been trying to like clean out bookshelves because, like you said, it's just like we moved from the Twin Cities to Wisconsin, and then we moved to Oklahoma, and we've moved 3 times. So
Sure. I still have my first Harry Potter book.
Yeah, I still do too. Yeah, I mean, for
who's gonna
sure.
read that again? Like,
but and so I've been kind of going through that, of like, what do you keep and what do you not have?
Sure.
And so, but like, I love physical books for sure, but like on my Kindle, I just downloaded like the new Anne Bishop because I know I want to read it when I'm, on a bike. But then there's like print books where I just, I have to have that book in my hand. So I have them all over, my house and in my car. And so.
So are you an avid reader? Do you read a lot of books a year, or are you just like a casual reader? 'Cause maybe that's like people think, we're writers, so we must do a lot of writer things. It's like, yeah, okay. I usually sit down at my computer for like 10 minutes a month.
It's really funny because people think that they're like, oh, I would love to work in a library because you get to sit around and read all day. You don't really get to do that. But I do read quite a bit, and I make one of my coworkers crazy because she is like a start to finish reader. And I am like a skimmer and read the end first sometimes to see if it's worth reading.
Okay.
And it makes her crazy. She's like, you missed everything good. I'm like, no, I got the gist.
Sure.
I got the gist of it. And and if I really liked it, I'll go and finish it. But, it's just, I think, especially like when you get a little older, your eyes sometimes get a little more tired. And I love like the Kindle for that for sure. Because, you can change the brightness, you can change the size, it's light, you can take it anywhere, but certain things I just want to reread in a book format for sure. The Hobbit is one of them. I have to have the book in my hand to reread that one all the time.
Tell me about, again, we talked about the library being just a place for books, but it's also a lot more than that. The makerspace. I think every time I interview Kat, we always get into Kat Long from Ponca City Development.
Sure, I love Kat.
We always get into just going on about how much we love the makerspace and how much we love that it's available, because there's quite a few things in there, right?
Yeah, and so I keep encouraging people. So I'm not a great sewer, but we have a sewing machine. We have a really nice sewing machine, and I've heard there's a resurgence in like what's the latest Gen Z-ish, that they're starting to do some of those old-timey skills. But we have like a sewing machine, we have wood burning kits, we have a CNC router, we have 3D printers, we have a Canva account, we have Cricuts, we've got all the stuff that goes with the Cricut. My Glowforge, somebody did something bad to my print head, and so we're working through a technical issue with the Glowforge team, but the Glowforge is fun, and it's...
And I think it's just cool that those things are available, that you can just walk up and, reserve your spot, because they do have to reserve, right?
Yeah, you can call the reference desk and they'll get you set up.
And I think Kat had told me that in some cases there are people around that can help you with.
We usually have a person in the room with you, because they're tools and they're scary, and sometimes it's intimidating to get started. But the thing is, I think at our core, people are meant to create, and I think that especially we've seen, the trades need more people working in them, because a lot of people don't know how to use wrenches and chisels and all that stuff anymore. And so even like with the routers we have or the different die cut tools, it's, people might be interested in them, but they're intimidating and they're expensive. And so it's a place where we just joke. We're like, it's never going to work the first time. Sure. You have to fail to succeed at the end of the day, because you have to figure out why didn't it go right?
Yeah.
And once you can explain why it didn't go right, you're really starting to understand the process of what you're building or creating.
And that is the fundamentals of art. Like for every project I've been on, there's been at least a period of where you have to figure it out. I got really involved in doing immersive art. Yeah, there's a whole lot of paperwork that has to get done before you ever touch a brush. And sometimes you get halfway through it and you're like, oh, this is not going to support this.
And it's funny because I tend to be kind of one of those people where I'm like, I want to go from point A to point Z and have it my thing done,
Yeah.
And so I really have to, like, when I'm in the makerspace with people, I'm like, look, you can never do it in a hurry. It's never going to turn out the same, how you see it in your head, because you really need to understand the mechanics of, building and creating. So I think it's a good place where you can come and play, and you might be like, yeah, I really enjoy that. And, maybe I want to try this instead. But like I said, people come in, they're like, well, I'm thinking about getting one of these for my home.
Yeah.
A lot of times kids, if they're not exposed to tools or art supplies, they don't even know that might be something they want to do.
Sure.
Later in life. And so having that opportunity to come and make mistakes and, learn new things.
Yeah. And speaking of learning new things and doing stuff with art, you have a lot of art programs you started some new art programs this year, right?
Yeah. So we tried to go away so we're thinking about our programming. We want to elevate our programming both for children and for adults. And, a lot of times libraries have crafting and everything is toilet paper rolls, the ice cream, spoons or whatever.
Make a shaker or a
kaleidoscope. I know. Yeah. And then the tissue paper. And so, we do a lot of surveys, and we really, the input we got from our surveys is people really they want to create, they want to have programs that are meaningful. So I challenged my staff. So let's try to elevate things a little bit so that you can come in and feel like you're really learning how to do something. And we'll still do the terrible crafts as well, because those are kind of fun. But, doing something where you feel like you learned something, or, you're not as afraid to try it if you want to do it at home too. So we have done more children's programs with art, like directed art, where, learn about perspective, you get to try different types of mediums. And then for adults, we've been doing things like painting classes with Red Dirt Rosie once a month. And she comes in and, walks you through the process. We can't serve alcohol, but we have iced tea, and it's still a fun night and stuff. But what's really interesting, because I've gone to some of them, and you have some people have no experience, and then other people who are very experienced artists, and they still come in and they do their own riff on whatever the project is for the night. And, it's just really kind of fun seeing how people interpret, the same thing, and how quickly people go from oh, I can't do this at all, to well, I think I'm going to, add some shading, or, it's kind of, it's
a slow I worked, last summer, I did some of the summer camp with the kids, and when you first set them down, there was I have no concept, but after you start putting the paper in their hands and getting their hands into it, then the ideas start to sort of come out, as they do, because that's your brain starts working in that artistic way. So yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
In addition to art stuff, you also have some fun, don't you guys do the the name just slipped me. Where you put them in a room and they have to get out?
We did escape room last year.
Escape room.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have been without an adult services librarian for a while, and we just got a new children's librarian.
Oh, good.
6 months ago.
Yeah.
So some of those bigger immersive programs take a lot of time, and so we haven't been able to do that recently. But we have already been planning for summer reading, and so we have a lot of exciting stuff coming up for that. We've got, let me see, I brought a list.
You have a whole list of stuff.
I brought a list. So for adults, though, we have coming up, we have Financial Peace University.
Right.
So I know budgeting is scary for people. And so it's multiple week class where people come in and they meet and they figure out credit scores and how to budget your money. And we're trying to cycle it right around tax season.
Yeah.
So if you get a rebate, you don't
Sure.
go right out and, buy fun stuff. You
Right.
maybe are a little bit more responsible.
Books.
Shelves for books, bags for books. And then we're doing a 3-month series on Medicare.
Okay.
And so
That can be difficult too.
yes, and scary and
Scary.
paperwork. And, if you've ever tried to call any government agency at all,
Right.
sometimes you have I talked about making human connections earlier. It's like,
Ever had to call the IRS? Sitting
yeah.
online for 20 minutes
yes,
or 2 hours.
I know, and then you time out, and then you have to start over. So we always have a book club. It's the second Wednesday of every month, and that's really fun because people just get together. They've read the same book, talk about perspectives. Sometimes they can get a little feisty, from what I understand. But that's
As book clubs do.
well, and I art. Art
Yeah.
and literature. That's everybody brings their own perspective to it. Let's see what else we have. So. Right before COVID, we started doing Alzheimer's and dementia classes. So, of course, we couldn't have that in person for a while. So we're having a 3-month series on understanding Alzheimer's and signs and symptoms and kind of that preliminary, if I'm worried about this,
Yeah.
what might be a good resource? And again, having someone coming and talking to you about it that you can, ask questions and, hopefully, the other people there, you have a similar interest, maybe different experiences, and you can share. And, again, talking about building community and, sharing ideas is important in our programs. And then we're doing a Let's Talk About It in April. So that'll be exciting. It's a directed book club. So everybody checks out the
I was
book.
like, what are we going to talk about?
Yeah, so I know. The book is called American Ending.
Okay.
And so what it is, it's a little bit different from some book clubs because we have a scholar come in.
Okay.
And so it'll be like a directed
Nice.
book discussion. And so frequently they'll talk a little bit about the background of the author, maybe, their style or school of writing, or maybe like, the zeitgeist of, when it was written, and really brings, a little bit deeper understanding of the book for people. Some people just want to chat about what they look like about a book,
Right.
and, what they hated, what they loved. And other people kind of want to dive a little bit deeper into, what was the author's intention.
So tell me a little, one of my favorite things that you guys do throughout the year is the touch a truck.
Okay.
Like one time I accidentally, when they did the mural, when they painted all the
Right.
murals, I was stationed across the street from Touch a Truck, and wow, the kids and the people, that was a lot. They would come over to me thinking I
Yeah.
was part of Touch a Truck, and I was like, no, that's
Hands off, yeah.
But yeah, you have a lot of programs, like your summer reading program and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this year's theme is Unearth a Story. So it's kind of interesting. So libraries are all about sharing and using shared resources. So every estate in the United States contributes some money, federal money, and so we all have the similar reading theme. This year it's Unearth a Story, and it's really fun artwork of those dinosaurs are going to be the theme, and kids love dinosaurs.
Nice.
So we're going to have lots of little people, making funny T-Rex noises and things this summer. But we're going to kick off on Saturday, May 30th with Touch a Truck.
Fun.
It is. So
I love it. I think it's fun because I think it's fun to go up. You see the trash truck, but you can't go up and touch it.
well, and it's really funny. So the first hour, I used to live in the Gateway District.
Okay.
So my neighbors were like, you're doing that again? And I'm like, I am doing that again. You're welcome. So the first hour is quiet because, there are lots of people who don't like big
Sure,
noises.
yeah.
And so the first hour or so is quiet. You can't honk anything and you can't, make the sirens blare. But yes, the last hour or so is very loud. And
That's what we're there for.
and what's really fun about it though is you see families.
Yeah.
Because we really wrestle with what is the right time to do a program, but it's on the weekend and you'll see a lot of dads with their kids because I think the dads are just as excited about the truck sometimes.
Yeah.
And so, but the people who are most excited to be there are the guys who do solid waste with the
Sure.
They are like every year they call and they're like, are we doing it again? And I'm like,
Yeah.
yes. And you'll get a t-shirt and good breakfast too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is a fun event. So
It is. And like I said, standing across the street and just watching it, you could just see the excitement of the different kids that were going up to, like I said, all the different trucks, everything from, you ride the school bus every day, but you don't get to blow the horn.
I know, we had a helicopter one year, and I'm trying to figure out how to get the helicopter back, but I'm like risk averse. I'm like, you're not going to move the blades, right? Like I'm just like, and they're like, well, if there's an emergency, we're going to take the helicopter. I'm like, oh,
right.
Okay.
So with the summer, how many books do they read? We were talking about the struggle of reading books.
So,
and how do you determine how many? Does it change every year?
So actually, we've kind of shifted thinking a little bit in previous years. So we used to really try and incentivize like X number of books, and you did a stamp for every book or whatever. And I do believe reading is important over the summer. Like there are studies that show that it really helps that summer slump because, you can lose a lot of those skills. And like, I think it's like second or third grade where kids have to make that transition from, learning to read to reading to learn. Because after a certain point, everything is a reading test.
Right.
So really, particularly in those elementary grades, it's really important for that reading, I think. I'm not a teacher, but I have read the studies. But so that is an important component, is definitely the reading. So the other part that we try to do is I've asked my staff to elevate. We talked about elevating programs.
Yeah.
And so we've eliminated a lot of like the little prizes for, hey, if you read 100 books, you get, this plastic thing or whatever. Sure. And so we try to have a lot more professional programs coming in. So you get to experience like a STEM project with mad science, or you get to have like a professional storyteller, or you get professional puppeteers, or you get professional musicians, or you get a professional artist coming in and teaching a class. So I think it's important to expose children, to higher quality programs than instead of, we talked about making crafts. Yeah. so we're trying to make it more of reading is important, but also learning things, getting hands-on experience. So the last couple of years we've done, instead of just a specific only reading books, we have tried to incorporate like activities. Oh, cool. And so, it's like, well, if you go to a program, you get credit for that.
Okay.
So we let the kids set their own goals. Nice. Because some kids are big readers, other kids are not big readers. Right. And, the goal is not to make you feel like you're not successful if you, just want to read, sports books, and there's only so many sports books you can read. So, it's really about the kids and their families getting to set their own level of, what do we think is a good outcome for the summer? But we just have a great, we do fun stuff too. We do like balloon, animals and stuff like that. But just trying to build future readers, teach them how to use the library, family activities together. So it's really fun.
One of the something that you talked about in the article was Kanopy, the new program.
We do a lot of surveys, and one of the things that kept coming up from people was they wanted to be able to do streaming. Mm-hmm. And so, when you look at the different platforms, there's lots of different finance considerations when you're doing any kind of a streaming service. So we had like a music streaming service for a long time, and it just didn't catch on, because part of it was of the way that you would get like tickets for how many titles you could have. So the super users were frustrated because, they want to download all the music, and they can only get like 4 songs a month or whatever. And then, the non-music people are like, I don't care about music. So people kept saying, we want to be able to stream like movies and documentaries. And so we looked at a couple different platforms, and, some of them are like a pay to play. So you can't budget for that.
Sure.
So it's like, because if you're a super user and you're like downloading, 17 movies a day, and each one of them costs like $3, pretty soon I'm talking to my boss about, hey, I don't have any money left for this service. So Kanopy is a streaming service, and they have 2 different options. They have one sort of like thousands of movies and documentaries and like BBC and all this other stuff, or movie series, TV series. And so that was kind of pricey for us, and it was more of the other model. So they've now shifted where you can buy unlimited access for your customers to like curated collections. So there's like a children's collection. There's like, I think we got BBC, and we got, I think we got 6 of them. And so we've just started that a few months ago. Nice. And people are starting to kind of pick up on it. But yeah, so you can you register using your library card, and you're at home, and you can, log into the application, and you can, if you like documentaries, you can find documentaries. So
is it kind of like we were talking about the Kindle or the digital books, where you sort of you use your library card the same way?
Yeah, it's very simple. It's just a simple thing. Yeah. So
awesome. So again, things that have just changed over the years. Did you ever think you were going to have to deal with digital movies, streaming services?
Kind of, because I think, like we've talked about, like libraries are always about, embracing like what's the next thing. And so for us, a lot of times it's not that we don't want to have the next new thing. It's how do we manage the next new thing? How do we make it work? Like I remember when I started as the director, we didn't have public internet access. And so, when we started bringing that online, like how are we going to manage, checking it out? How are we going to manage what people get to look at? How are we going to, inform the public about the right way and wrong way to use and so sometimes for us, it isn't that we don't want to do it or we can't imagine doing it. It's how are we going to make it work and pay for it? That's kind of for us. It's like, we're always like, let's give it a try. So like we just got a grant from DHS and Oklahoma Department of Libraries. So we got money for 30 laptops and then 5 hotspots. Cool. So, eligible people can come and check them out and, use them at home, and the hotspots help, boost your internet so you can, get your DHS benefits or things like that.
That is, and for me, I think that was always what libraries were so cool, is that they had all the technology stuff, because, that stuff is important to be able to access. Something that you said, I want to share this quote because you said it was very cool in the article. My underlying belief is that libraries should constantly evolve to ensure that we meet changing community needs and to take advantage of emerging trends and resources. So my question, what's the new emerging trend that you're seeing that you think? Or is that a spot question? Is that put you on the spot?
I don't think so. It's just
I just thought that quote was so cool.
So we do a lot of planning, and so I think what a lot of us are really looking at is this intersection of how people are viewing community and places to meet socially and civilly. And I think that for us, it's how do we get people to engage the library as sort of a more organic than just books. And I think a lot of libraries are kind of struggling with, what do people really need in terms of not just today, but like 10, 15, 20 years down the line.
Sure.
And so we do a lot of planning. It's like when we invite kids and, it's like, how do we get people in the community thinking about the importance of literacy, the importance of, I think we talked about like developing those skills about protecting your privacy, and I think that we're all kind of dealing with so much competition. And so I'm probably not even answering your question. It's not necessarily a trend. It's that I think there are no opportunities for a lot of people.
Sure.
And so we're trying to make sure that we stay relevant to. I'm not even answering this question very well.
But I think you are, because I think because I had the insight of what we talked about before we turned on the cameras, is that with AI and everything, we're just getting so into our own heads, and the library is providing a place where we can have a social setting to go and interact with people and do programs.
And it's challenging too, because what we're seeing is like there was just a study, like a survey fairly recently that showed that there's been this dramatic lessening of people reading. It's like among certain groups, like with men, it's like a 40% change in like reading to non-reading. And at the same time, there's fewer and fewer like literacy programs. You see like, you see people aren't, buying books necessarily as much. They're focusing a lot more on like social media, computers, phones, all that. And so what I think we're really wrestling with is how do we get people, in the building or learning about the importance of developing these skills and maintaining these skills, because our concern is, the library is one of the last places where you get open access to information. I buy things for the shelves that are, maybe I don't necessarily, it's not my thing, I don't agree with it, but they're by respected authors, they're by people who do their research. And, I can read something that challenges me to make good decisions. And we live in this world where everybody's pushing like their own agenda or their own ideas. And, we're trying to keep this place where we're going to challenge you. We're going to give you thoughts, ideas, resources that help you make informed decisions, help you make good voting choices, help you make good educational decisions. And I just, our concern is if we don't protect that and we can't get people in and, build future readers and future makers and artists, we'll go away.
Sure.
Because you have to maintain your value in your community so that they're like, why do we want to keep having this facility? And it's like, we believe it's the right book or the right site or the right, material for the right person at the right time, for the right need, and it's hard to encapsulate that. There's like a library, philosopher who wrote about that. It's called, I can't pronounce his name, Ranganathan. And so he talked a lot about how that's the underlying struggle that librarians have, is because all of our customers come from like birth to death. Mm-hmm. And we talked about collection development. And so it's really hard to step outside the box of like, people should only have, what I enjoy or what I need.
Sure.
And so our goal is like, when you're 2 or 3, you need something very different from when you're, going to college. And when you're going to college, it might be something very different from, I just got out of the military, I need a job, And so it's like maintaining that collection so that needs that people don't even know they're having or they're going to have, that the materials are there for when they decide it's the right time in their life for them. So that's kind of a challenge for us.
Sure. That sounds very challenging.
But I'm a library kid, so I'm excited. I had this great story the other day where a young lady who was working with a local coalition wanted to come and share some of her paperwork that they had in like some flyers. And so she said, "You probably don't remember me." And I'm, and I see, hundreds of people a day, and I'm like, I just don't. I'm bad with names and faces. And she said, "Well, I came to Ponca City when I was pretty young, and we didn't have any money for a computer. And so I would come to your lab and I would use your computers, to, fill out applications for school, do homework. And then I got accepted to the university, using your library computer lab. And then, I went to school, and then I'd come back here and I'd do my homework on the computers here when I wasn't, on campus. And then, now I'm working with the school that I attended, having applied, on a library lab computer. Yeah. And now I'm back in my community, like bringing information to people about, health resources. And to me, it was that's what it represents, that full circle. And, it's hard to really encapsulate that easily, sure. But it's that idea of like, people go through different needs throughout their lives. And so we try to have services and collections and materials that grow with them.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, February is Library Appreciation Month. So Holly, thank you so much for joining us today. Check out the library, go by, see all their events, all their stuff. You can probably check it out on our website.
Oh yeah, the website for sure. Absolutely.
So thanks so much. We'll see you guys
Thanks for asking.
Yeah.